I'm Denise Walden with Walden Floral Design, and today we're talking to Dana Bacaling of Dana Ashley Events. She's a wedding coordinator, a wonderful wedding coordinator. And
Thank you.
welcome, Dana, for being here
Thank
today.
you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, tell me a little bit about why a bride would need your services.
Sure. So we find that most of our couples that come to us are busy professionals. Maybe they've never been part of a wedding before, or maybe they have and they've seen all the work that goes into it and really just want kind of some expert advice guiding them through the process.
What's the difference between a day of coordinator or a full hands-on? I mean, like from the beginning.
Yeah, sure.
What function do you have?
That's a great question, and I think every couple kind of needs something different. So for myself, we offer different packages and levels of service to help, whichever level of service the clients need most. So a day of coordinator is someone who will come in at the end of the process after you've already done all of the planning yourself, you've made all those decisions, and we just kind of tie up any loose ends that are there, touch base with all of the vendors, create a timeline for the day so that both the wedding party and all the vendors kind of know what's going on, and then we help facilitate everything on the day of. So setting up your personal items, making sure that things are how you expect them to be without you having to the couple, I should say, having to do that themselves or have family members do that. When you work with a full service wedding planner, usually that's from the beginning of your engagement period all the way through to the end of the process. We will help you create that vendor team. So we build your wedding date from the bottom up. So everything from color schemes to seasons, what flowers would go with those color schemes. I create a mood board to help them visualize things. We make recommendations based on, the budget. We'll create a budget for a couple. Usually they start with a big number of this is how much we can put into our wedding, and then we take that number and we break it down into segments of how it can best be utilized so that they get the most out of that budget. So definitely valuable to have a planner on board, if not for the whole thing, either partial or at the very least day of, so that our couples can enjoy their wedding day.
Now, do you help create the list of who to interview for the couple, and do you go to all of these appointments with them?
So it depends on the level of service. So for our full service clients, yes, we will create a comprehensive list of who they should work with based on their taste, personality, and budget, as well as the vendor's availability. So we'll pre-screen that so they're not spinning their wheels contacting vendors who may already be booked. And then we utilize our relationships to set our couples up for success. So we know our vendors personally, and then we get to know our couples personally, so we try to match those personalities, because I think it's really important that our couples have that personalized connection with all the vendors they're working with. And then in terms of meetings, full service, we do attend most, if not every meeting. For partial, it varies, and a lot of times our couples are meeting over Zoom. I work with couples all over the country, so
I know you do.
Yeah. So it is nice that Zoom has come into the picture, because then I can attend most meetings. For our day of couples, we don't attend those meetings, just for the level of service. They're taking care of all of that, mostly on their own, but I try to make myself available if there are questions at any time during the process. I'll always give them my opinion if it's asked for, and advice, for sure.
Do you go to the tastings with the
When
couples?
I get invited, I do, especially the cake tasting. That's my favorite part. But it's a good question, because it really, the food is part of the overall theme, I feel, to the wedding. So whether you're having a black tie wedding or a casual wedding, or you want to have a fusion wedding, I think that tells the story. So the food is part of that story.
So your list of vendors typically that you would check off with the couple, is there an order that you would use, first, second, third? How would
So,
you do that?
I always start with venue, just because that is going to give us our date. So we can't do anything without having a solidified date. And the venue will also tell us a lot about the style of the couple. So once they select that venue, I'll get a really good sense of what is their style, what are they hoping to convey in their wedding. Then I usually say photographer and videographer, because those tend to book quite a few months out, sometimes a year out or more, depending on the popularity of that person.
Many of them are single individuals
Yes.
or a very small team.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they don't take on more than one wedding a day, because it's a one wedding show. So once that date is gone, they're out of the running. So definitely, and when someone has a great reputation, they do book up fast. So
Yes.
I really encourage couples to get their finances together, and we set the budget. We have that budget conversation really early before we book any of the vendors. Then it's venue, photography, videography, floral, and then things like stationery, you know, what else? Dress is an early one too,
Yes,
because that
yeah.
takes a long time to actually order in. A lot of these dresses come from overseas, so we want
Indeed.
plenty of time for our couples to get everything in order, so nothing's last minute.
So regarding budget,
Mhm.
setting a budget, I often tell couples that when you're setting a budget for flowers, it's between industry standard would be between 8 and 12% of
Yep.
your entire budget.
Yep.
I use 10% only because it's easy to
Me
calculate.
too.
Yes.
I say the same exact thing, because I
Okay.
do find that that's very standard. However, caveat to that, I will have the couples who love flowers,
Mhm.
and they just envision a room full of flowers, which is going to be over that 12%.
Surely.
So
yes.
I always want to be really realistic with what the vision is, and give them, you know, a realistic idea of what that might come in at.
In 25 years, I've had 2 brides say to me, I don't like flowers. I'm here because my mom told me I have to be.
Yep, I've had a
And
couple of
They're,
those.
going to be the lower end of that
Yeah,
percentage.
they might be at
And
the
that's
8%,
fine. Yeah.
which is okay too.
Yeah.
But even if they don't like flowers, I think there is a place for flowers in a wedding that make it feel complete and like a wedding. So they don't have to go crazy, but
I
I'm
agree.
a big believer in flowers.
You can do a very tasteful, beautiful wedding, and it doesn't have to be on a big budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But your main function is to make the couple's life easier,
Yes.
navigating through the myriad of decisions that need to be made for a wedding.
Yeah.
So many people just get overwhelmed with the details, and I see them all the time. Moms and daughters,
Yes.
couples, whoever it is, coming in, making these decisions, and unfortunately, many times I will hear them say, I cannot wait for this to be over.
That is the saddest thing to hear, because my goal is always for not only the wedding day to be this amazing experience, but for the planning experience to be that too. Because it's a season of life that these couples have once in a lifetime, hopefully. So we want for that to be as seamless as possible, as stress-free as possible. I know stress-free isn't always realistic, but as the least amount of stress as possible. And I think when you have a competent, confident, experienced vendor team by your side, that's how that happens. So my function is always to kind of lead them to those vendors that will help their day be the most successful, and the experience the most successful.
So to become a wedding coordinator, you can't just show up one day and say, hey, I'm a wedding coordinator.
That's right. As fun as that would be, and I think a
Yes.
lot of people think that it's a really fun job, and it is, but there are a lot of behind the scenes things
A lot of
that people don't
responsibility.
see. yes, especially if you're a business owner. As you know, that go into creating a business that is sustainable, successful, and what you'll come to find as a new person in the industry is that it's a vast industry, but it's also very tight-knit, and your reputation is everything. So
Yes.
you really have to look at every interaction that you have with fellow vendors, with couples, whether they book you or not, that leaves a lasting impression. And people talk. And when people have a great experience, they want to share that with the people that they love and they care about. And when people have a not great experience, then they want to share it with everybody. So that's what you don't want to happen. So that's why it's important to kind of start in the right way.
Always be professional.
Always be professional, definitely, especially with fellow vendors. And anyone who is around you, you should always have that level of professionalism. Take the high road. And, you know, to get into this, I think it kind of starts with a spark. You have to love people.
I would agree.
And I think just in the wedding industry generally, you have to love people because you're going to be talking to people, interacting with people, you know, interfacing with all these different aspects. And weddings in general, even if the couple is one way, their guests might be totally different. And you have to be able to kind of bend and flex and, you know, get along with a lot of different personalities while still maintaining that level of professionalism. So flexibility, personability is huge in what I do, client facing and vendor facing. You have to be really organized. You also have to know, you know, you have to get to know the industry because you have to be the expert. So you have to stay on top of trends. You have to stay up to date with who's doing what and what style does Denise have and what is her you know, work personality like. How can I best work with you so that you want to work with me too? So clients are not only the couples that we serve, but the vendors that we get to work with. So it is so hard to just answer this in a concise way, but there's so many layers to being a wedding planner and getting into it. But I think it starts with a spark for, you know, a passion for weddings and events and people.
You're drawn to your profession.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I always say, don't love flowers because I'm in this business. I'm in this business because I love flowers.
Exactly.
And people too.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
okay.
And it shows.
Thanks. How long have you been doing wedding coordinating? Because I've
So-
known you for years
Yes.
at different venues.
Yes.
And each one of those places you've worked at has certainly dovetailed into your profession today.
Absolutely. So it started when I was in high school. I worked at a restaurant that did banquets. So I kind of started as a server doing, you know, banquets. And I was like, this is really fun. I just love talking to people. Being a server, you know, anyone will tell you that you have to have a very outgoing personality. And you have to be able to kind of go with the flow and think on your feet and be quick. So that was great when I was in high school. Then once I got into college, I was still working there, but I started booking the banquets. So I got to kind of see that side of things and helping build out menus and, you know, what appetizer stations people could do. And they would come to me with ideas and I would talk to the chef and kind of see, can we do this? What if we do that? They probably hated it at the time because I was always trying to do something different. They were like, Dana, we have standard menus. Can't they just pick something? But I just always wanted to kind of push the barriers and see kind of what we can do to make it really special. And it worked out, and I think they saw really great results from that too. And then once I got into college, I went to Elmhurst College, now Elmhurst University, and they have a chapel on site, and I worked at the events office. So I would help book the chapel for weddings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I really fell in love with that and the campus, and just we did a lot of events. We had like a speaker series of different people who would come and talk. So getting to see kind of the contract side and the insurance side and how all of that works was really interesting to me. And then I worked at the college for a little bit after I graduated. From there, I worked at Neighbor Settlement for the chapel.
That's where
too.
I remember. Yes.
Yep. So
Yeah.
I was in guest services, and I would do tours of the grounds and the chapel, and photo permits and all that kind of wedding side of things. And then from there, I moved to the Morton Arboretum, where I was a facility coordinator, where we booked all the weddings,
Mhm.
and we really had, that's where I really started to see kind of all the ins and outs of what goes into a wedding, because I got to interface with a lot of the other vendors, our caterer on site. We were very involved with that process,
Mhm.
the tastings, and I just really fell in love it was always something I was interested in and had a passion for, and then at the Arboretum I just exploded with love about it. So I worked there for 6 years, and then I moved on to Kansas City. So
Mhm.
I moved from the Chicagoland area to Kansas City and started my own business in 2019. So since then, I've just been doing it on my own. And
How
loved
often
it.
are you back up here for weddings? Because you're familiar with the vendors in this
Yeah.
area. You're familiar with the vendors in the Kansas City area.
Yeah.
And how often are you're
So-
up? So Dana's up this weekend actually for a wedding that
Yes.
Weldon Floral had done, and this was a wonderful opportunity to say, hey, Dana, let's chat.
Absolutely. So it really just depends. I'm here all the time because my family's still
Mhm.
here. So my kids and my husband are all in Kansas City, but my parents and my brother and sister are still here.
Yes.
So I come back all the time. And because I still have those relationships here, I'm here at least 3 times a year for weddings, I would say, if
Wonderful.
not more. So I already have some booked for 2025 in
Good.
the city, so it'll be great to be back. And I have a team here too, so I have people that work in the Chicagoland area for me and in Kansas City, and we travel too, so I'll be going to
Wonderful.
Greece in the summer. So
Do you need a florist to go with?
I might, yes. So it's really
we could
great.
work something out.
Yeah, I think so. That would be great. But we go everywhere, and basically wherever. It's a 45-minute flight from Kansas City to Chicago.
Isn't that
Yeah.
short?
So I could literally get from my house to the airport faster than I could get downtown probably from here.
True.
So it's pretty nice, and it's just awesome. I love coming back for weddings here.
So Dana, in regard to florists,
Mm-hmm.
when I talk with couples, when they come here and we do a consultation, I'll ask their overall budget, and I will ask them what's important to you. What's the most important part of your wedding as far as flowers go? I always consider the bouquet to be the central piece, and I build from there. But I ask them what is the most important part. Some brides, it's about the cake
Sure.
and the flowers on the cake.
Yeah.
That's where they will want to put money into it.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it your reception flowers? And with receptions, I often point out that if you have 20 tables at your reception, whatever you choose, it's times 20.
Yeah.
And then there's the delivery charges
Yep.
involved in that. Delivery, setup, time and travel. How do you guide your couples in spending their floral budget?
So I think it's most important that your guests have a fabulous experience. So I think of wow factor moments that
Mhm.
your guests will really take in and say, wow, look at those beautiful flowers. Oh my gosh, that is just a stunning backdrop. So I'm a big fan of repurposing also. So I think that's a great way to stretch the budget. So if you're having your ceremony, either at the same place or maybe a different location than your reception, to have something that is behind you while you're getting married as kind of a backdrop is a wow factor for your guests. It'll be in all of your ceremony photos as well. And then after you're done at the ceremony, we can move those pieces to your reception area and put them around your head table or around your cake if you want a wow cake. There's so many ways that we can stretch that wow factor and reuse it. I think that is a great way to do it. And in terms of guest tables, you know, I'm a big fan of mixing styles. So maybe not every table needs a tall arrangement
Yes.
that is, you know, more expensive. Maybe half the tables get a tall arrangement and the other half get a lower kind of compote style arrangement. That really helps save too. I've also had couples do a wow arrangement on their head table or the parents' table.
Because that is the focus,
Yeah.
that couple's table.
Right, and then that's the center of the room, and when you have your room shots from your photographer and your videographer, you're still getting that wow factor. Your guests are still seeing that beautiful, you know, floral, but it's kind of concentrated. So that's, I think, the best way to kind of stretch that floral budget if you're wanting to save a little bit but still have that little wow factor.
I often recommend that in, say, large sanctuaries or large areas, especially if, say, the sanctuary, the church is very ornate, those pieces, you need to go big or
Yes.
don't do them.
Yes, I agree.
But some churches will require that the flowers stay at the church.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them do. Not
Okay.
all churches do, but if we're able to take them, then to repurpose those
Definitely.
At the reception. And they look
Definitely.
beautiful on each side of a sweetheart table or your
Yes.
head table.
For sure.
Show up in a lot of photographs.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you that wow factor, something that has an impact when you first see it, rather than stretching it out to lots of little things all over. I don't
Yes.
think that those will make as much of an impact as one or two or however many larger pieces, and then maybe scale down for lower pieces, but not
Yes.
little things everywhere.
Absolutely. And I think when it comes to bridal party, something I've been seeing a lot of, at least in the Kansas City area, is foregoing boutonnieres for the groomsmen and just having something really pretty for the groom, and smaller bouquets for the bridesmaids. Because again, if you have 7, 8, 10 bridesmaids and all bouquets, that's gonna be more expensive.
You know I'm gonna cut this part out of the
Yeah.
video.
But what's really trendy right now too are smaller kind of petite bouquets
Yes.
for your bridesmaids. And we're seeing a trend now too of more patterned dresses. So
I have been seeing more patterned dresses show up, and you have to be very careful about the texture
Yes.
against those patterned dresses. Yeah.
Exactly. So something that's all one variety of flower is really popular and more solid in color as well, so that you're not competing too much with that pattern dress. Really makes a good use of that budget.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share about your business?
Gosh, I think just generally when it comes to finding a planner or being a planner, it's important to let that spark kind of guide you. And I think one of the most valuable lessons I've learned, you know, kind of since COVID is it's okay to say no if something doesn't feel aligned with your business or your heart. I try to have a heart-centered business. I want for every couple that works for me to feel valued and cared about, and I don't want to just take everyone's money and say yes to everything at the expense of, you know, my happiness or the couple not really being a great fit for me. And that's okay.
And
I'm
you
not-
have family. You have
Yes,
young kids.
I
too.
do, I
Yeah.
do. And I feel like it's such an important time in people's lives. I really want for them to feel a connection with the planner that they're working with and feel supported in the decisions
cared
that
for,
they make
yeah.
and cared for. And I know for me, I'm very selective about the weddings I take on that are really aligned with kind of who I am and the mission that I have for my business. And it's like a mutual selection from the client and the vendors that they're working with. You should love your vendors, they should love you, you should feel really cared about through the whole
Oh,
process.
wonderful.
So, yeah.
How can couples get a hold of you?
Well, my website is DanaAshleyEvents.com, and that is the easiest way. So you can just fill out an inquiry form there. I'm on Instagram, Dana Ashley Events. Call me. You know, my number's posted everywhere. You can text me. So yeah, we try to make it easy.
Well, Dana, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it, honey.
Thank you.
It's good
It
to
was
see
so
you
good.
again.
Yeah, so good to see you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Safe travels back home.
Thank you.